Welcome to Strat-O-Matic Baseball, a leisure site dedicated to Strat-O-Matic Baseball, the original fantasy baseball. This is video number 5, Bunting for a Hit. This video has taken over 4 years to create, as Strat-O-Matic Play doesn't have bunting for a hit. But I think I've come up with a solution. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about Strat-O-Matic Play, the cultural perception of sacrifice bunting, some of the great bunt hitters, some of my research for the solution, and then ultimately my solution for bunting for a hit. If one is playing the board version of the game, there is zero chance of bunting for a hit with no runners on base. Absolutely none. However, if you are playing Baseball Max, then there is the opportunity. You got this little box there, which allows you to take a chance on bunting for a hit. But in the Strat-O-Matic Play, there is about 9% chance of getting a hit, or 92 average, with runners on base. In 2006 to 2017, when it comes to just bunting for a hit, Major League Baseball had an average of 431. That's over 3,000 hits and over 7,000 at-bats. But in Strat-O-Matic, you ain't got it. So understanding Strat-O-Matic Baseball, with the 2 dice, you have 36 chances. You have 1 chance each to get like a 2 or a 12, 2 chances for like 3 and 11, and so forth. So with that, we're going to look at the odds. I'm going to just talk about the sacrifice bunts and not the squeeze plays, just to keep it simple. So in the basic level, there's 8% chance. In the advanced level, there's 11% chance. And in the super advanced, there's a 9% chance to get a hit. Breaking that down, in the basic level, you have to get a 2 or a 3, which means that you have 3 chances out of 36. Which equals about 8. Batter beats out bunt. Runners advance 1 base. Okay. And then the advanced version, you have to get a 2 or a 4, which allows you to have 4 opportunities out of 36. Batter beats out bunt. Runners advance 1 base. So that's 11%. And then in the super advanced, batter lays down great bunt, but only if he falls within his running range. So, like if you're an A bunter, you have to get a 5, which means you have 4 chances out of 36, which equals a batting average of 111. Times that by, let's say you were a 17 and running, that leaves you at a 9% chance of getting a hit. So you're saying there's a chance. Even though I'm talking about bunting for a hit, let's go ahead and talk about sacrifice bunts and its cultural perception real fast. In 2011, Bill James wrote something that said sacrifice bunts were usually a waste of time. I mean, if you think about it, a bunt is the only play in baseball where both sides applaud. The home team applauds because they get an out, and the other team applauds because they get a base. So what does that tell you? Nobody's really winning. And in his abstracts in 1983 and 2010, he identifies some things. He says that poor hitters are the ones that are usually doing the bunting. And then if you want to score more runs or manufacture more runs, then what you need is speed. And of course, many of you are familiar with the movie Moneyball, where the lead character says, no bunts. A bunt is an out. No bunting whatsoever. If someone bunts on us, just pick it up, throw it to first. Don't try to be a hero and throw it to second. Let them make mistakes. And when your enemy is making mistakes, don't interrupt him. And some of you are familiar with Earl Weaver. He hated the idea of sacrifice bunts. And of course, we also have sabermetrics, which says that more outs equals less runs. And of course, with the extra innings, there's been some research done. And I'm not going to go into that, but obviously, it's being looked at. My inspiration for wanting to put the bunt for a hit into Strat-O-Matic Baseball comes from Willie Wilson, longtime Royal. Past his prime, he had 15 bunt hits. In 1992 and 1993, Brett Butler of the Dodgers had 52 bunt hits for almost a 500% success rate. And for the most bunts in a hit in the season, we have Brett Butler in 1992, but notice Kenny Lofton also had 22 that year. So he had a lot. Career best bunters of all time. Some of them had a success rate almost up to 88%. That includes almost Rod Carew and Pete Rose. And of course, the year that Mickey Mantle won the Triple Crown, he had 11 bunt hits that year. And Bill James is beginning to backtrack. He no longer convinced that the sacrifice bunt is a poor percentage play. And then in 2024, on X, he says, I have to take responsibility for partially, even largely convincing a generation of researchers to write off situation hitting variations as flukes. I may have been wrong to do that. So I want to keep the bunt in the game by adding bunt for a hit for those excellent bunters who can run fast. Before creating my own gameplay process for bunting for a hit, I need to do some research. You've seen this chart before, but what I didn't realize was just how hard it would be to find actual stats on bunting for a hit. Baseball Savant didn't have it, MLB.com didn't have it, and Baseball Reference had it, but you had to go to the under batting situational hitting spot, and then you see just how many they were successful. You don't see the percentage. You can do that for both teams and for individuals. This is the back chart is from the 2024, and my Royals got 22 bunt hits. But where I got most of the graphs is from beyond the box score from I believe it's March 11th, 2017. And you're going to see these charts. You can see bunting for a hit by year, most bunts by a team through these 10 years, and then the top bunters, which you've already seen a little bit of that. And of course, I'm going to be talking about the perfect bunt diagram here in just a second. So we have bunting for a hit by year. And I created a chart, and the chart says that the batting average is .431. So I was going to aim for something around that level. Now here's the zones that they come up with. Zone 1 at first base, Zone 6 on third base. And what was surprising was third baseline. If you hit it down third baseline, you had a 720 chance of getting success. Obviously, being around the pitcher's mound, you're not going to have much success at all. So keeping that in mind, I also noticed that did a little research on the shift, and the batting average for the shift was over 500, which was kind of interesting. So the conclusion is I wanted to have a bases empty success rate of over 400, and I don't use the shift, so I don't even worry about it. So I have created a premier bunter, which is someone that can bunt and run. And I've done it about 25 times with a 542 success rate, which is a little high, which means that I need to adjust what I was doing just a little bit. Here is my Strat-O-Matic solution for bunting for a hit. You've seen this graph before, and with this graph, I made 7 zones in the infield. Using an 8-sided die, of course, I had to have a swing away zone. Each zone has a percentage chance of success with adjusted values based on the bunter's ability, the defender's range, and whether the infield is in or not. And then if you are a premier bunter, which I'll talk about in a little bit, you can actually bunt for a hit with runners on base. So, since I read left to right, I created my zones left to right. The catcher has 3 zones, the pitcher has 2 zones in the middle, and then the first and third baseman have 1 zone each. and then, of course, the swing away zone. Here are the zones. If you bunt the ball on the third base side, you have a tremendous chance of success of over 70%. If you bunt the ball towards the pitcher, in front of the pitcher, your percentage of success is 200 or lower. And then zone 8, the first 6 are chance for an error. Number 7 is a single for everyone. And then 8, 9, and 10 is benefits for a premier bunter. Notice that 10 has the inside the park home run. And then 11 through 20 you have mostly outs. So we have the zones with their success ranges, and then you have the adjusted values. You have the bunter's grade, you have the bunter's running, and then you have the bunter's value. You have the defender's range, plus or minus, and that leads to the adjusted value of what's successful or not. So, the bunter's ability. I want those players that can bunt to be able to bunt. I don't want this to be something that just for anybody, So I gave a grade of A and B, 2 and 1, and then a 2-point difference down to C. If you're just an average bunter, I don't want to reward you. So, and then the speed, 17, 16, 15, so forth, 2, 1, 0, so forth. So those are combined to create the bunter value. So if you're an A17, you have a +4. And these boxes that are shaded in the light blue, these are the premier bunters. And I'll talk about those here in just a little bit also. Now, with the numbers that I come up with, I had the range at -2 for a range of 1. Defender with a range of 1, but I thought that was a little weak, so I made a little bit of adjustment, which I haven't played with yet, but I think that's going to be fine. So you have the bunter value, and then you have the defender range, and you combine those, and you get the adjusted value for each range. So you'll notice that even a bunter value of 4 has a point better than a defender of 1, and that's the way I want it to be. So we have the success ranges right there, and then you have the bunter value, and then you have the defender range. You start with, say you roll a 3, your odds of success are 1 through 6, and then if you're an A17 +4, so it's 1 through 10, and if the defender happens to be a 1, then you subtract 3 from that, which makes it 7, and so forth. If you look down at the very bottom of the chart, you'll see the success ranges in percentages. Let's say you are a B15 bunter. Well, you go from 6 to 7, and then if you are a 1 in the defense, then you go back down to 4. And so that's how that works. Now, I do want to point out, if the infield is in or the corners are in for the first baseman or third baseman only, then there is a big adjustment. There is a -3 added to what is already there. So a defender with a range of 1 goes from a -3 to a -6. So it's pretty powerful. However, in the swing away zone, you go from a regular defense to a defense that has more offense. So now, if you are a premier bunter, you can bunt for a hit with runners on base. But this is only for those premier bunters, and you continue to adjust the bunter values the same way as you have, and then you look at the runner's running range. It's very simple. If one roll for both the bunter and the runner, if the roll falls within the bunter and the runner's ranges, then it's a single and the runner advances. Both are safe. If it falls within the bunter but not the runner, then it's a fielder's choice. If it falls within the runner but not the bunter, then it becomes a sacrifice. And if it falls outside the range of both the bunter and the runner, it's a double play. I have some other specific rules, but I'm not going to cover them in this video. Also note that if there are 2 outs and the runner's forced, he gets the +2 as if you're playing a normal game. Now, my goal with the A-runted bunter or a premier bunter was to have a success range of 450. In the old version that I played, my success range was actually above 500, so that's why I made the adjustments to the defender. Now, a super advanced proposal that I come up with, if the bunter's bat side, if he's batting on the left, it's a -1 because he has to cross home plate and then turn around and go back to first base. And right, if he bats from the right side, then he can just cross home plate as he's bunting it, just as normal. And then the pitcher throws, well, if I remember right, the pitcher that pitches left falls to the left side, the third base side. If he's a righter, he falls to the first base side. I don't even play with this. It's just a proposal. And in the 4 of the sets that I have some highlights of some of the best bunters. Like in 1980, one of my favorite players, Willie Wilson. And what actually surprised me was Derek Jeter was a +4 also. So let's take a look at how this is played out. I have 4 Hall of Famers here, all with different levels. You'll notice in the chart, you'll see an A17, A14, B14, and a D13. Ted Williams being bad, and we'll see how the roll affects each of those. Now, if you roll a 1, you're going to have a great chance of success, regardless how bad the bunter is, or great the bunter is. However, if you roll too high, the defensive range can take an effect also. Like you start with a 15, but if you roll into a third baseman that has a 1, then your odds are going to be less, as in this case. And of course, zone can take an effect. If you roll into the pitcher zone that has a 3, well, it's getting pretty difficult to get a hit. So the bunter's ability plays a factor, the defensive range plays a factor, and the zone that you hit it in also plays a factor. So, quick review. There's the graph on the left that I started with. Created my 7 zones with the success range based on those numbers that I saw, researched. Then you have the bunter's value, the defensive player's range, and then whether the infield is in or not. You have also the swing away option, and then of course, if you are a premier bunter, then you can bunt with for a hit with runners on base. And I actually have yellow dice for this now, as opposed to when I first started this. So with that, the next video is super advanced fielding. What was that? Hidden ball trick? This has been Strat-O-Matic Baseball, shining light on the original fantasy baseball, Strat-O-Matic. Visit Strat-O-Matic.com for more game information. And thanks to those who have already subscribed. If you haven't, hit a thumbs up, ring that bell, and thank you for watching. And did you see Ichiro's bunt home run on YouTube? Check it out.